lot of places actually have the NutriBullets for me. All my family members have them, so I'll just be able to put things in there, and that's worked out fine for me.
Well, good. Well, gosh. Well, I just want to say, again, thanks for sending the paperwork so timely, and then also making yourself available to talk to us today. Go ahead.
No, go on.
Oh, okay. So the purpose of the call, what we call an interactive meeting, is just to talk to you about the medical certification or the paperwork that you did send to us for the request for accommodations, and review that with you and talk with you and get your feedback from you specifically as the employee about any possible accommodations that can be made, anything that you may have thought about to be able to allow you to return to work, to perform the essential functions of your job. This conversation is outside of what typically the doctor provides. Sometimes what we find is the doctors are very conservative, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, you know your body and you know your limitations as well, and you may have had some thoughts about whether you had agreed with the doctor and what the doctor has written, or you may agree slightly and have some thoughts of your own about it. So the purpose for our call is just to really talk to you about maybe some of your thoughts and explore the possibility of any accommodations or anything that you may have thought about that, like I said, that could potentially allow you to be able to return to work. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do want to return, just not until I'm fully able to function. Like I said, my panic attack, I'm under my body's adjusting to a bunch of new medications that I just started, and one they had to stop because I was blacking out and falling. And so I'm just trying to get adjusted to meds, and before all that happened, I just was getting a lot of panic attacks. I don't sleep. Even though I've been off, I don't sleep at night or even during the day take naps. My anxiety is so intense, and my doctor wants me to be able to keep my anxiety low for me to be able to continue healing from the physical surgery I had. That was pretty big. And so, I agree with everything said. I can't stay focused very much. I'm losing my memory with things that I'll just say. I'll stop mid-sentence. To write notes would be near impossible for me right now. My patience level is really low, and I'm afraid of being snappy on coworkers and management and our members. Mm-hmm. I'm really, because my pride and joy is the work I get to do with them, and right now I'm not even feeling normal, and I just. My work that I do with my clients is very important, and I know that I will not be able to perform.
Right.
And I would have to take a lot of breaks, and again, that said, I've just been still getting some dizziness and everything like that.
Okay.
So
I thought.
But my goal is, like I said, I'm in therapy, and I'm seeing psychiatry. I have 3 appointments every week, like I said, to see some kind of doctor. And so I'm just working on all levels of, health, physical, mental, spiritual, and getting myself back to that confident feeling, and, the panic attacks have subsided and everything like that, just so I can come back and see a whole new me and back to who I was when I started at telecare,
Okay.
Because the quality of care that I provide and how I treat people is really important to me, and I'm not even treating myself kindly right now. Okay. And it was to the point where, around my surgery time, for myself, there was a lot of SI, and I didn't tell very many people that, but, I had to really pray and get back to church and everything, and eliminate those thoughts. But I'm really hard on myself. When I feel defeated, and there's no stopping it. So I just really, it'd be hypocritical for me to be telling clients to do this, coach them, educate them on things, and then I can't even do that for myself right now. I'm working on it. I'm in the process of it, and Sorry, my precious speech is really bad right now.
No, that's okay. I think we've gotten, because what I wanted to do is kind of go down the request for accommodations, but just in kind of talking with you and hearing you out, you've kind of answered some of those. I wanted to speak specifically to the accommodation requested. You said continued EDL, PDL, paid continuous disability leave until I'm capable of returning. And then mentioned above, in addition, if possible, I need continued health insurance to maintain health care for my disability to recover for return. I wanted to speak a little bit to the health benefits, because typically what happens is that once the FMLA has exhausted, and in your case it has, your benefits end on the last day of the month following that 12-week expiration date. Right now, for whatever reason, my system is not allowing me to look at what that is, but I believe that your benefit exhaust date was going to be either February 28th, which is the last day of the month, because your FMLA exhausted within the month of the 12 weeks exhausted within this month.
And that's separate from EDL, right?
No, it's not separate from EDL. So it is in conjunction.
I still have EDL hours. I've been checking.
Okay. Are you receiving EDL? I'm sorry, state disability?
Yes.
Okay, so you should be.
Yes, but not the full amount.
Currently, you're probably receiving state disability integrated with your EDL or PDL. That's how you're receiving compensation. However, your health care, your job and benefits are protected under FMLA for 12 weeks in a 12-month period. So regardless of how many hours of EDL you may have available to you to use still, that 12 weeks by law expires. Like I said, I believe your 12 weeks expired early part of this month, February, but benefits for telecare end on the last day of the month, which would be February 28th. Does that make sense?
I can't, because I'm kind of, so I'm just wondering, how do I keep seeing my doctors, because I can't afford out-of-pocket pay, and I got to continue this health care so I can, this is what's helping me get better.
Right, so that's typically
getting better.
That's typically where COBRA would come in. So what would happen is telecare would send you your COBRA enrollment paperwork for you to enroll in COBRA if interested, to be able to have that continuation of benefits. But I just wanted to make. Go ahead.
Well, this just adds so much stress, because I'm really just trying to work on me, and this is the first time I'm working on me, and I just got to be able to do this and afford it. And
right. I understand that, but I wanted to speak to this because those were some of the accommodations that were requested. One being, the continuous time off, which is something that we can consider, and we'll talk about that and explore that possibility a little bit more. But the benefits piece, I wanted to speak to you about that because I noticed that you put that on here as well. Okay.
Yeah, because that's how I'm working on myself,
Right. So one other comment, I know that on the doctor's note that we received from you, it said that that the doctor was considering, I believe, into March for you as a end date, or for the leave of absence, or for the. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
It said undetermined.
Right, but on this one it says undetermined. Are these notes from the same doctor? So at first he said March, and now he's saying undetermined?
Well, because when you do the paperwork on disability, it can't be more than, he said he's not legally able to do more than, a certain amount of days at a time.
Right. So my question is unfortunately for telecare, we have to have or know what an anticipated return date looks like for you in order to consider any reasonable accommodations. So this paperwork because right now, if you think about Telecare as the employer, we're saying our employee, Mary, is requesting an extension of time as a reasonable accommodation. So we as the employer are saying, okay, what is that extension of time? What does that look like? What are we considering as a possibility? Because, ultimately we want to know if this anticipated return date or this extension of time with the anticipated return date is going to be the date that will allow her to return in order to be able to perform the essential functions of her job. By saying undetermined, that doesn't give us the information that we need to be able to satisfactorily consider a reasonable accommodation for you.
Well, he also wanted to know, I meet with him again. I meet with this doctor again on March 2nd, and so he's, they're very busy. So I know they don't do paperwork without having a session. They're very strict on that, and so that's why when you gave me the date before, I got it done during my next session with him. Mm-hmm. So it was done and completed on time. And so, I know, with different, I keep losing my train of thought. My time, do you know the date that, I'm just curious that, in order to hold my position, I have to return by? Can you tell me what that date would be?
Well,
do you remember? You guys tell me.
What I can tell you is...
Hi, Mary. I don't...
Go ahead, Mary.
No, I was just saying hi, Mary, and I don't know that date.
Okay. So on a typical legal term or method, the job protection and benefits protection would have ended with the 12 weeks of FMLA. So, again, I'm getting ready to pull it up now. It looks like my computer is working now. Hold on one second, Mary. Give me a second. So your benefit exhaust date is February 28th. And and that should have been in the paperwork that I sent to you with the FMLA CIFRA designation. Yeah. And your FMLA, your 12 weeks of FMLA expired as of February 8th. So from a legal standpoint, February 8th would have been the last day of job protection. February 28th would be the last day of benefits coverage. However,
so I'm confused because did that change? Because I thought it was 6 months. Like when Monica and different other people that they were gone for 6 months, or a day short of 6 months. So did that change to 3 months now?
I wouldn't know. I'd have to look back at what type of leave Monica was on in order to determine what that 6 months was. However, I also know that Telecare no longer has that personal leave of absence, and that could have been the difference between the two, meaning her first 12 weeks was under FMLA, and then the second portion of her time could have been by way of personal leave. I don't know that, and I don't want to speak to that to compare because Telecare no longer has the personal leave of absence. We have the 12 weeks of medical leave, which is under FMLA. And then if there is a request for an extension of time, which is a request for reasonable accommodation, which is where we are with you today, is under consideration or under review per the employer to determine if we are able to accommodate the request. And I can tell you right now at this point, with the doctor's note or the request saying an undetermined amount of time for return does not give us the information that we need in order to satisfactorily be able to consider any reasonable accommodations. Because what this looks like right now to us is Mary is going to be off from now until eternity. So how can we consider any accommodations without any defined information?
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I mean, this paperwork's new to he had never seen paperwork quite like this one. This was all, different to him from other stuff he's done before. And obviously, I've never seen this before because this is all new to me, too.
Right,
so,
right.
I just did the best, and I didn't fill out his portion. I filled out just mine, right? So,
that's right. You guys filled the paperwork out fine, and you responded to the questions. However, it's just that information for us in order to determine or consider the reasonable accommodation period, we do need the treating physician to provide us with a little bit more information, specifically in terms of a anticipated return date. So what I hear you saying right now, Mary, and I think this is probably a good place for us to kind of just stop and regroup, because we do need that information in order to consider any reasonable accommodations. That what I'm suggesting is that we go ahead and extend through March 2nd, which is the date of your next appointment, in order to get the information and the correct paperwork that we need. Okay.
Now, what paperwork do you need? Do I just have that page revised by him, or what is it that you need?
Yeah, what I would need to do is just send you another one of the same packet, the request for accommodations, because of course we need it with a more current date. Because this one was signed and dated by the doctor February 8th. So if we're extending through March 2nd, then what we need is an updated current medical certification or current request for accommodation. So what I will do is I will just email you this back with the revised dates and requesting that you return it by the 2nd.
Okay. And then a different note as well, like a separate different doctor's note, or
well, not a
that one. I just want to.
If we receive the completed request for accommodation completed, that satisfies us for a doctor's note as well.
Okay, so you just need this part done and have everything done the same. I mean, basically, I could just have them. Can I just have them redo that one page though that has page 5?
What would have to happen, Mary? Because if you notice, even on page 3, there's a date and signature from you at the top, and then the information from the doctor would need to be updated, completed, based on your current situation and your current condition. So between now and March 2nd, perhaps you've improved, perhaps things have changed. We want to know what the current condition is at that time, with the questions answered based on the current condition. Okay, so I'll email this back to you. I'll email a blank one back to you with current dates.
So I guess there's a lot of changes because, this is just this one. Yeah, I guess I'm new to this, and this is weird because it seems different than what has been done in years that I've been at telecare. So.
And you're right, it has. Our policies have changed, so you're absolutely right.
So I apologize if I did things incorrectly.
No.
That my intent.
No, that's why we're here to talk about that too. So you're right, our policies have changed. The way that we're doing things now as it pertains to leaves and medical leaves and requests for accommodations is different than what it has been in the past, and that's primarily because of the legal requirements that are federal and state requirements that we handle things and manage them accordingly. So it may feel a little uncomfortable and may feel a little bit different because it is different than the way that we've done it before. But, as the world evolves and as laws change, telecare also has to maintain and stay current and up to date with those. So That's primarily the reason. So it's not an issue of whether you filled it out right or wrong. It's just an issue of us being able to have a transparent conversation about the need and about what's going on and what we need in order to be able to consider, the extension of time that your doctor is requesting that you have.
And okay, so it's not even about it's amount of time. It's just about the reasonable accommodation now, and then that. Okay.
So yes, it is. So that where we are now is you're no longer under federal legal protected status under FMLA. However, under ADA, the telecare has an obligation to engage with the employee in an interactive meeting, which is what we're attempting to do today. But also under ADA, there could be this consideration for reasonable accommodations. Reasonable accommodations can be, one, an extension of time, which is what your doctor is asking. It can be, two, if you need reduced or intermittent schedule. It can mean special equipment. It could mean special lighting. It could mean, various things. But in order to be able to consider any of those options, we have to have complete paperwork and clear. And then what we would do is we would end up having another interactive meeting with you following that March 2nd date to follow up to be able to talk about this again. So the interactive process does not just stop at the first time. Okay.
No, I understand that part.
Okay.
So to just clarify, to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, so basically, in order to keep me protected under ADA accommodation, because the paperwork didn't have an exact date, I need to redo. You're going to send this to me. I'm going to redo it. And then he has to actually put a date, not to be determined. You want a specific date on it. And you'll have it. This will be okay in the meantime until March 2nd when I see him on March 2nd. And then I will turn in the corrected paperwork to you.
Correct.
Is that accurate?
That is accurate. That's accurate. So I just want to really clarify, though, that we're looking for, a defined date, but we're also wanting information based on your current status. So if your status changes for better or for worse, we don't know that, but within this next 2-week period, things may change and you may improve, and this medical certification or this request for accommodations may look totally different. Perhaps the doctor even releases you to return to work prior to that. So what I'm saying is we want the most current, updated request for a reasonable accommodation based on whatever your status is at that time.
Need defined date of return.
Right, defined date of anticipated return, because...
And then...
Yeah.
And if status changes with improvement or decrease, indicate.
Right, because the way the doctors responded now, like I said, on page 4, C, D, and E, he may have a different response to those questions.
C, D, and E is actually page 5, just so you know.
Interesting. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yep, you're right.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, page 5.
I wanted to make sure I had the right pages.
Yes, page 5. His response to page 5 may be different than what it is now, or actually page 4 and 5, so A through E may be different.
Okay, and then, oh my God, so I won't, even though I still have, even if with this a reasonable accommodation pending approval or approved temporarily or whatever, I won't have health insurance, and I won't get a small check.
Your pay will continue on. So if
Just
you're
not the health
right, so if you're still being paid through state disability and you are being paid through your EDL, that wouldn't change, provided there's EDL or PDL available for you. That doesn't change.
There is.
Okay. However, the health benefits.
I thought that went away too. It's just the health benefits.
Right. It's just the benefits.
Well, to me, I see that as part of a benefit too, but that's why I thought it was all of it.
And you're right. You're right. EDL is a telecare administered benefit, but not a health benefit.
Right. So when will I be sent that paperwork? Because, I mean, that's the thing. I was like, I got to figure out how that payment's going to come out, because it's really important for me to be able to continue seeing my doctors and getting the prescriptions I need so I can, get to the point where I'm able to return, and I want to return.
Sure. I will send you the you're talking about the COBRA enrollment paperwork?
Yeah.
That typically comes from our corporate office. There's just one thing I want to clarify, though, before I respond to you 100%. Under reasonable accommodations, I believe the policy says that the health benefits exhaust within the month that the reasonable accommodations have been made. So your situation right now is you're kind of overlapping two different areas, which is FMLA and ADA reasonable accommodations. So FMLA has exhausted and expired, and it will end. Your benefits will end under FMLA, like I said, as of February 28th. However, March starts a new month, and we're asking for a consideration of time, at least to allow you to get the paperwork to us based on your next appointment, which is March 2nd. So within the reasonable accommodations policy, which I know that I sent that to you, benefits end on the last day of month in which the accommodations have been afforded. So we're allowing a temporary period or a temporary accommodation from now till March 2nd, which puts you in another month. So perhaps your benefits don't end until March 31st.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
That's the only one thing that I want to clarify for you, and I'll get that information to you when I send, and I'll have it, and I'll send it to you with your with the new form.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, send that to me, and then I'll work on getting that back to you. I apologize, it wasn't done accurately. I'm not trying to make anything difficult, I promise. I'm just trying to do what I need to get better.
Understood. Well, Mary, yeah, we understand that. So, Mary, really, really take care of yourself, and then look for an email from me, and I'll send that out to you later today.
Yeah, well, that's on top of that as well. I wasn't allowed to drive for the longest time, and in the first couple of weeks I started driving, my car got totaled on the freeway at 6:05, headed to an appointment, and I left my car and just had to spend more money to get a new one with whatever settlement check I got. So I went from that to now then a concussion and sprained neck and shoulder. So it's just like a little setback too. And I'm just like, why when I'm working on myself does more stuff have to happen? Like, I'm just like, it's just been a lot that I'm trying to deal with.
Understood. Well, our first priority is making sure that you are well enough to return. So just, we need you
and I want to be well.
Yeah.
I want so desperately to be well, and I think Memory really knows that too.
But of course, these things, sometimes they take time. So the best thing is just to make sure that you're doing the best that you can to take care of yourself.
I am. I'm following every doctor's order that is going my direction.
Great. So, okay, Mary, so look out for an email from me, and then I'll provide you with that additional information regarding the benefits, and then we'll talk to you, or as soon as you provide us with the updated medical certification, we'll schedule another interactive call with you, okay?
Okay, thank you, Taya.
You're welcome. Take care of yourself, Mary. Bye, Mary.
Bye, Mary.
Bye, Memory. Bye, Taya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.